Welcome back to the channel, where we explore the architecture of the human mind. Today we are going to tell a story about how your brain went from being a simple survival machine to a virtuoso future producer. It begins with a quote from the philosopher Benedict Spinoza, who said that human reason begins with its native powers and creates its first intellectual tools, and through these it acquires further powers. This is a profound idea. It suggests that we are not just born with a fixed level of intelligence, but that we build the tools to make us smarter. To understand this, we have to look at where we came from. Think about the lowly toad. The toad has a nervous system that is hardwired. It is lightweight, it is energy efficient, and it is perfectly fine for an organism that lives in a boring, predictable environment. If a fly moves, the toad snaps its tongue. If a big shadow looms, the toad jumps into the water. The toad does not need to think about these things. The evolutionary logic is baked into its circuits. But there is a downside to being a toad. If the environment changes, the toad is in trouble. The toad can only adapt at the speed of natural selection. That means it takes generations and generations of dead toads to evolve a new trick. In the toad's world, change is slow. But you are not a toad. You are an anticipation machine. You want a brain that can adjust itself in major ways in a few milliseconds. You want to be able to avoid ruts, solve problems before they happen, and recognize entirely novel threats that your ancestors never saw. This is what Dennett calls plasticity, and it is the defining feature of the human brain. But getting from the toad to the human was not a straight line. We have to look at our primate ancestors. Millions of years ago, primate brains started getting complicated. They were not just doing the 4 F's, fighting, fleeing, feeding, and mating. They were picking berries, they were grasping branches, they were tracking social hierarchies. They had specialist circuits for looming objects and friend or foe detection. Suddenly, the brain was flooded with multimodal information. Sight, sound, smells, touch. And this created a massive new problem. The meta problem. The problem was essentially this: now that I have all this information and all these options, what do I think about next? In a simple brain, you just react. In a complex brain, you have to choose. But here is the catch. There was no captain in the brain to make that choice. There was no CEO sitting in the frontal lobe saying, "Okay, now we will look at the banana." Because who would that captain be? He would have to be a little homunculus, and we know that doesn't work. So how did the early primate brain solve the problem of attention without a boss? Dennett suggests we look at the Pandemonium Model. This was an idea from early artificial intelligence by Oliver Selfridge. Imagine your brain is full of demons. Not evil demons, just little agents. Each agent wants to do a specific job. One agent wants to look for snakes. One wants to find fruit. One wants to groom your neighbor. They are all shouting at once. The agent that shouts the loudest wins control of the body for a moment. This is called contention scheduling. It is a chaotic marketplace of impulses, and this works. It gets the monkey through the day, but it results in a very short attention span. The animal is constantly having its attention captured by the loudest distraction. To get to the human mind, we needed something more stable. We needed a way to create long-term projects. We needed a stream of consciousness. And this brings us to the most shocking fact in human history: the timeline of our brain evolution. We split from chimpanzees about 6 million years ago. Our brains grew 4 times larger, but this growth was finished a long time ago. The great encephalization was essentially complete 150,000 years ago. Think about that. Physically, biologically, your brain is almost identical to the brain of a human living 100,000 years ago. But those humans didn't have agriculture, they didn't have writing, they didn't have cooking, and they certainly didn't have iPhones. So if the hardware hasn't changed, why are we so different? The answer is software. The explosion of human civilization in the last 10,000 years is not due to genetic evolution. It is too fast for that. It is due to us learning how to harness the plasticity of our ancient hardware by installing cultural software. We learned some good tricks, and then we taught those tricks to our kids, and they improved them and taught them to their kids. We don't have to reinvent the wheel every generation. We download the wheel app from our culture. We download the language app and the math app. This is what Spinoza meant. We use our plastic brains to absorb tools that make us smarter than our biology should allow. And this leads us to the concept of representation. What does it mean to represent the world? A sunflower tracks the sun moving across the sky. It turns its face to the light. But if you block the sunflower stops. It cannot predict where the sun should be. It doesn't have a model of the sun. But a zebra is different. If a zebra sees a lion go behind a bush, the zebra doesn't forget the lion exists. The zebra's brain continues to track the lion's position even when it can't see it. That is the beginning of true representation. Holding a thing in your mind that is not currently stimulating your senses. But humans take this to a level that is frankly absurd. We don't just track lions. We represent things that don't exist. We represent the concept of Paris even if we have never been there. We represent the concept of a nickel-plated corkscrew. We represent the square root of a prime number. No chimp can do this. A chimp can feel hunger, but a human can represent the specific desire for a 1971 red burgundy versus a 1974. We have refined our internal maps to an incredible degree. And how do we do this? We do it by filling our cortex with patterns of activity that we pick up from our culture. We are not born with the concept of a corkscrew. We acquire it. Our brains are vast open spaces of neural potential, waiting to be structured by the memes and ideas of our society. Plasticity makes learning possible, but culture makes it powerful. We are the only species that does not have to start from scratch. Every human baby is a blank slate hardware-wise, but they are born into a world that is ready to upload the operating system of civilization into their heads. So the next time you solve a math problem or plan a vacation or read a book, remember that you are doing something that your biological hardware was not explicitly designed for. You are running high-level software on a hunter-gatherer machine. And the fact that it works at all is the miracle of plasticity. Thanks for watching, and make sure to subscribe to keep upgrading your own software.